Hello, I'm Kate Tojeiro and I'm here with Dr. Louise Wiseman, which I'm absolutely thrilled about. This is the first in a little series of podcasts and conversations with experts, people from all sorts of different walks of life, and just having some conversations with people that can give us some really specific advice about what might help us control and influence this extraordinary scenario that we all find ourselves in. Or it might just be something that will be thought-provoking and might help you think a little bit differently, that will help you sort of move forward and progress through what is perhaps a bit murky at the moment. Dr. Louise Wiseman, as I say, is a former NHS GP. She's now a medical writer, a speaker and an author, and she's got a specific interest in women's health, but also ageing healthily. And what we're going to discuss today, I think, is those things that, the things that we can control and we can influence. Because this environment that we're all in, there's no doubt that there's a lot that we really can't control and we really can't influence. But actually our homes, how we're working, whether we've got people on the front line or people that are with us that are vulnerable, there are certain things that we can do. So that's what we're going to be thinking about and chatting about today. I think we're all in this together, and obviously getting used to a new normal, whatever that is, and it's really difficult for all of us to a greater or lesser degree. And I think the other thing is that we, as humans, we don't really like getting out of our comfort zone, but whether we do or we don't, it has been forced upon all of us, and so some things will be harder than others. But there's lots of little things that we can do just to make it a bit easier, a bit better, or even a bit fun. So first question I was going to ask Louise is, from a medical and a science perspective, what would you think are the sort of new habits that we need to think about, those things that we should be adding into our schedule that maybe in our former lives, however long ago that was, even if it was just a few weeks, that we perhaps considered to be indulgences?
Yes. As you say, I think we're all feeling completely out of control. It feels like we're living in a film that's gone wrong. And I think I'm just going to say, before I start saying anything useful, is that I'm obviously not talking about sorting out your work and your economic life, or dealing with the illness today, or whether or not somebody close to you has got it. We're talking about the worried well people who are at home, possibly for a larger proportion of time than they've ever been. And their day structure has changed, because it has for all of us.
Yeah.
Even if we are working partly from home, entirely from home, or travelling to work for essential work, something has changed, and we're going to have a little bit more time at home, whatever is happening, or a great deal more time. If we're in an office environment, we're going to be there for shorter periods of time, it's most likely. We'll have less travelling time, so we have got more in our day to use. So my idea for this, which I thought of a couple of days ago, is try and think of it as healthy pockets of time in your day. So I could talk about this, how we see it at home, but also how an employer would see it at work. So everyone in your household is living in a confined space, whether it's you on your own or whether you're in a group of 5 people. And everyone needs a little bit of space and a little bit of time for themselves, from the youngest person to the oldest. Absolutely. So those silly things that we would normally say, we would feel guilty for taking time over, reading a book, having a bath, going outside if you have a garden, or standing on your balcony, breathing in the air. If you're into meditation and everything, that's all fine. You can learn about it, but I'm not saying everyone has to do that. But something where you're doing something on your own for a period of the day that will make you feel better. I'll go into exercise later, but I think that it's important that we all give each other space, but we all do something nurturing. And if you're thinking about people going into an office for part of the week, which is, I've heard of happening a lot now with people who have to go to work, if you're the employer, have a look at who you've got in your office and what skills they've got that you never knew about. You might have a yoga expert there. You might have somebody who's read countless books who could tell people what to read to switch off. You could tell people to bring their yoga mats in and do social distance yoga. Anything imaginative that just for 10 or 15 minutes of a day makes people feel relaxed, and in that sense in an office makes them feel part of a team and that they are dealing with something together and they're being looked after. I think that's really important at the moment. I think this is going to show the people who are good employers from great employers as to how they nurture their staff.
Absolutely, I completely agree.
And it could be from a distance. And I think a lot of things that are keeping all generations going at the moment are based around humour, sharing jokes. I think some of that's appropriate for the workspace, but there's very little in control at the moment in our lives. We're feeling totally out of it. And when you look at how the government's managed this, they've had very calm authority. They've had a science officer, a medical advisor, and the Prime Minister, and then different people at different times. And I think people are going to look to their employers in the same way. They're going to look for that calm authority and kindness. And I think if it's not been part of your natural thing before, now is the time, whether you're working as a GP or a CEO, whatever, now is the time where you have to, you know, develop those gifts if you don't already have them. And I think giving people encouragement to look after themselves and do something relaxing or enhancing is really important. And I think that works at home as well as it does in the office. And I think also for every part of a company, from the top down, this is now the time when you can focus, you can plan what you're going to do, you can evolve, but you can also do that individually. If there's something you want to do to get fit, learn how to grow your own potatoes, now is the time. We've never been forced into this situation where, you know, we must not just be scrolling through social media. We must use this time to develop, because hopefully it's never going to happen again.
No, absolutely. It's really, really good point. Really good point you make. And I think, as you say, you know, the calm leadership that we've seen in unprecedented circumstances, but also, as you say, leaders, us in our family, you know, whether we have a leadership position or not, we can all take a leadership position, even if it's not our responsibility. But that, I think that permission, as you say, from someone else to relax, to do yoga, to do meditation, to do, you know, whatever your thing is, just to have that moment of pause in chaos.
Definitely.
So, sorry. And so I suppose the next thing I was going to ask you, you know, again, from, I suppose your, you know, from a, from your expert background, is how would you advise, you know, those of us that are working, and as you say, some of us are going to work and coming back, others, you know, we're very much staying at home, but how would you advise those that are more vulnerable, which, you know, as we know, is quite a spectrum? It could be living alone, pregnant, with risks of other health concerns, you know, high risk with young children, or with, you know, older parents, family, friends, or caregivers, and of course, you know, those amazing people out there that are on the front line in one way or another, doing an amazing job. What are your sort of main pointers there?
I think that because everything's changed, this is really going to distinguish how people know everyone that they're looking after. So if you're in a business situation, if you've got team leaders who are responsible for certain people, it will depend how much they know that person day to day. So this is going to be a fluctuating thing, because different people's contacts or they themselves may become ill. And by checking in, you would then know more what's going on day to day than just what you see of a persona in an office. So I think it's really important that your contact with somebody is appropriate to them. There might be younger, more vulnerable people in your office who are introverts, who at first thought social isolation would be great, but are now going to be suffering potentially. And it would be up to the good employer to be able to spot that before it happens.
I think it's okay on that point, actually, to do, I was thinking about it yesterday and we've had discussions, actually, if it's clumsy in the first instance, that's fine, because it might be, it's difficult, we don't quite know what we're working with, and it will fluctuate, and people will be all right one day and maybe not the next.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, I know from a friend who works in corporate banking, her boss, when she was displaying symptoms of corona a week or so ago, was in contact with her and reassuring her no work was necessary, trying to stop her working when she started feeling better. Yeah. Now, that would have meant far more to her than anybody else saying it, and really showed how good their relationship was. I think it's a little bit like we're saying, check on our vulnerable neighbours. Yes. You've got to identify who's vulnerable in your group. And I think the other thing about this is that from years as a junior doctor and as a GP on call, it's very anxiety inducing being accessible all the time. And if you're working at home in this situation and you're not going into an office, but you have your work day and you're not used to a routine, you have to start setting boundaries of when I'm going to work and when I'm going to rest. And I think the people who are in charge maybe need to also think about the timing of how they communicate, have a regular, maybe weekly get together where you're all together on a phone screen like this, seeing each other, checking in, but also don't send your emails demanding things to be done at 12 o'clock on a Friday night, because you shouldn't be doing that anyway, and many people do. But in this actual situation where we've all got this higher level of anxiety, those small things are not going to help some people, and they're not going to get the tasks done better. They'll be more efficient if they still have a routine. We all have to have a routine, whatever our lifestyle is now. So I think, you know, treating the week as the week and the weekend as the weekend still is really important.
I think the other thing on that, which is quite interesting, and certainly from, I suppose, the work I do, is that it's finding our own routine, isn't it?
Yeah.
Even if, you know, the business has a specific routine in terms of what it needs to deliver, what productivity looks like, what performance means now, but also that we all have slightly different rhythms and slightly different routines. Yeah. So long as we set it, even if I think for a lot of people last week it didn't really happen.
Yes.
It's beginning to formulate now, and it's making, I use the word sense, but it does feel a bit more like something that, you know, that there is a rhythm-ish.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's our own.
And I think to feel like we're all in this together, you can't.
Absolutely.
It feels incredibly lonely. You know, you talk to the older people and they feel isolated, and but younger people feel that too. And I think that's why the things we're going to talk about next about looking after yourself, you know, moving, eating well, sleeping well, and things like that are so important now, because if without that backdrop to everything, you know, we will suffer through this time, whereas we could actually focus on using this as a time to improve ourselves, to get a better handle on stress, to exercise more, to expand our minds by reading.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we talked, didn't we, about you know, the 4 things that initially, it's like anything, isn't it? We have to take the baby steps. We can't do everything overnight. Yeah. But you talk very compellingly about, you know, the importance of movement, of nutrition, of sleep, and vitamin D. Tell us more about that.
Well, I didn't know, obviously I've been working on my book for 3 years, and I've been trying to look at ways of keeping people well, but I didn't know how relevant this was going to be, because a lot of the things,
timing is everything, as they say.
Well, everything that I've researched, obviously people who think they are well could dismiss until a time comes in their life when they have to address their health. But what I'm trying to do is get well people to get even more well. And so a lot of those things that I've researched, more than my knowledge as a GP was, are now coming into the fore. So the first one is movement. Now, something I would say, if you're able to do some kind of exercise for 30 minutes a day, if you're able to walk, and we're following government guidelines still, that's fine. But there are so many exercise apps, so many free videos on YouTube, Joe Wicks, all the different people. I mean, what Joe's doing with the children for PE is phenomenal, but it's actually making the parents do it, and they're looking at his videos.
And I think this morning there was a granny who was 77.
Yeah. And he has a senior program for older people that I sent to my parents. But that 30 minutes is important, even if it is just walking around. That's a minimum. But the other thing that I didn't know until I did more research is that if we sit still for 30 minutes, things start changing in our body. So our cardiovascular parameters, even things that work in our bones start to change. So if you sit and watch 6 series episodes in a box set, you're not getting up for a long period of time unless you get up to make a cup of tea. So remembering exercising or moving 30 minutes a day minimum, but also every 30 minutes get up and do something, because then that reverses those sort of sedentary changes that happen in our body that, if they went on long term, could put you more at risk of other disease. And that's such a simple thing. And no one wants to sit at their desk. I mean, I've sat at this desk for the last 2 years and it's driven me mad, but I had to make sure I moved around, you know.
Yeah.
The other thing, nutrition.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's very trendy now, but it's not just trendy. It's the benchmark of everything. What you eat this month could be next month's health. And I think that's really important. This is a time when you can download those free recipes, go through your old recipe books, find some simple things with the ingredients you've got left. Don't worry if you haven't got all the ingredients. Try some cooking. If you've never cooked from scratch, do it now. You've got time. The kids can help if you've got children at home. Do it online with your friends if you're on your own.
Yeah.
Fresh, simple recipes. Nothing has to be complicated.
I think also what's quite good is there's lots of apps out there, aren't there, that you can. Some of it, well, a lot of us have got slightly random things in our cupboards now. So sometimes it might be, well, I've got this, and this. How does that go together? And actually, there's apps that will tell us. Which is
exactly. And then a very brief bit I'll just say about pre and probiotics in our food, because this is probably more important now. I mean, whether or not we can change our immunity now, you know, it's probably just a long-term plan for next winter. But probiotics are the natural healthy bacteria we have in our gut, which are in lots of foods, and prebiotics are undigestible bits of things that are in lots of foods. Now, if you have a lot of root vegetables, and you can look these things all up online, garlic, onion, carrots, all the things that we should be having, if you have those every day, you can alter your gut, you can alter how happy you feel, you can alter your immunity over a long period of time. Now is the time to get to grips with that. And I think you can go through, I went through my 20s, 30s, living for work and family, and never actually thinking about what we were eating beyond normal mum cooking. And I think
we were thinking about what we were doing rather than eating.
I think that now is the time. Those things are cheaper to buy, vegetables. You know, you might start growing your own. I'm not saying everybody has to, but these are the things that hopefully people won't be hoarding and we can get hold of.
Yeah.
The other thing, massive thing is sleep, which, I mean, I've written articles on it. I've spoken to so many ladies about it, and at all ages, both sexes, there are problems with sleep. Yeah. Think about your sleep hygiene, how you prepare yourself for bed. Turn your screens off 90 minutes before. There's no point scrolling through emails unless you're going to stay up and do something about them. Lots of people are guilty of that. Now is the time to stop doing that. Yeah. Have the odd night where you stay up watching TV with the kids, but don't make it every day. Try and chill out, read a book, make sure your bedroom is dark, wear an eye mask if you need to. These are all simple things that get our melatonin going in our brain. And that is not just to help us sleep. When we sleep, everything clears out and almost detoxifies in our body. So we clear out rubbish in our brain, we clear out our entire body. And if you don't have sleep, things start changing. You find yourself craving more sugar at the moment, which is something that's really easy to happen at the moment because we could comfort eat through this. That won't do us any good.
No, sure.
You have more energy, obviously, but you'll mentally feel better if you're getting a good sleep. And I think focusing on that, even if you have to shut yourself away and have an Epsom salt bath every night, do it, you know.
Absolutely, go for it.
It's a priority. And then the last thing we talked about yesterday when we talked about it was vitamin D.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, people are being encouraged to do some exercise if they can safely social distance and go outside. But if you've got a garden, it's obviously easier, or if you've got a balcony. But vitamin D, we can get a lot of this from our diet. So oily fish, red meat, if you're not vegan or vegetarian. Liver once a week, although I wouldn't recommend it more than once a week because it has a high level of vitamin A that could be dangerous. Egg yolks are great for vitamin D. fortified foods like cereal and spreads that we put, margarine, things that are fortified, all have vitamin D. But it's worth having a look on the NHS website to see if you're in one of the vulnerable categories, and they almost recommend nearly everyone over the age of 1 has vitamin D supplements of some kind. So it's worth looking it all up and thinking about whether you are getting enough vitamin D, because without that we're going to feel more down, less energy, aches and pains. It can have a massive effect on our mood, tiredness, your wounds don't heal, your bones aren't kept strong. So it's a really important thing that if you were going to be staying inside for a long period of time now, it has to be addressed. It's just a basic fact, because this is the time we would start getting out in the sun, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for that. That's so helpful. And I think what's really interesting about those 4 that you've picked out for now, they're a really sort of bedrock, a nice foundation. They're all connected. And actually, if we're doing a good bit of movement, a good sleep, and we've got vitamin D, and maybe the nutrition's gone off a bit, well, that's fine. Or it might be something else that's not so good. So long as we're just gradually doing things that will help moving forward.
Yeah. And be mindful of looking after yourself and being gentle on yourself at the moment, and supporting each other. Really important.
Oh, that's brilliant. Thank you so much. I think the advice and suggestions you've given us there are absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much. If you have questions, it's brilliant. And I think if anybody's got any questions for us, if they want to ask either of us, that's absolutely fine. Please reach out. And of course, stay safe, everyone. Stay well. Be well. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.